Johannes is a experienced patent attorney, and Johannes will zoom into the IPR, intellectual property topics related to cross-border collaborations. Afterwards, we will have some time for some moderated questions and answers. Quite important is that we will use the chat. So in case you have any questions, please use the chat, the Teams chat, to in fact ask your questions in the chat, so that we do not interfere too much with the timing. But we have some time from, let's say, 11:30 up to 11:45 for some questions to the keynote speakers. And afterwards, we will give the floor to a few European entrepreneurs, people who are establishing cross-border collaboration in funding programs or even outside funding programs. And it's quite interesting to hear what their experience are. So on one hand, we have Mislav Juricic. I'm sorry, my Croatian is not that good, but from GDI Solutions in, as I mentioned, Croatia. Mislav is board advisor of GDI, and he will introduce what GDI is all about. Afterwards, we have Ronan Perez from France, and he will give you some share with you some experience from Innovia perspective with regards to cross-border collaboration. And last but not least, we go to another French organization, and we give the floor to Samuel BLAUWE, who will share his experience as CEO from drone geofencing. Afterwards, again, the last quarter more or less, we will have again the opportunity to share some thoughts and to ask some questions. We will also ask you for some input, because we really want to have it a both way or two-way type of interaction as much as possible. So we will also launch some Mentimeter questions throughout the full webinar. So this is more or less a program for today. So please use the chats if you have any questions. Another question we still already have is, you see on the left-hand corner of the screen a red dot, which means that this webinar will be recorded. In case you have any issues with this webinar being recorded, please let us know through the chats, so that we can manage the distribution of this recording, or even stop the recording. So if you have any problems with the fact that this webinar will be recorded, then please let us know. So let's kick off now with a short introduction by Marie from the Blue Cluster in Belgium, in Flanders, to give you a very short introduction on the LEVIATAD project. Marie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mark. So once again, for those who are back from the previous webinars and for those who are new, I'll just very shortly introduce the LEVIATAD project and what we're doing. So first of all, why was the project started? So it's an EU-funded project. And the reason why we do this project is because there were some issues identified within the marine defense industry, such as, for example, the interlinkedness and independentness of our economies on outside of EU markets, then as well as the quickly evolving electronic and digital technologies, which we have to keep up with, the deindustrialization of Europe, and of course, the very intense competition preventing SMEs from entering the supply chains. So those are the issues we try to tackle within the project, and we try to do this by reaching two goals. Which are, first of all, trying to support European partnerships and supporting them in making strong European defense technologies, as well as supporting SMEs in their development and market position inside and outside of Europe. Those two goals are meant to, at the end, result into a cluster of excellence for naval defense in Europe. And we're not doing this alone. We're doing this together with 4 other partners. So we are the Blue Cluster from Belgium or Flanders, and we are supported by the DLTM Italian cluster, the NAVIGO Italian cluster, and then the TVT French cluster and the Croatian cluster for competitiveness in defense industry. So altogether, we try to reach a cluster for excellence. One of the ways we try to do this is by supporting SMEs. And supporting SMEs, we translate it into these webinars. We have 3 webinars on our program. 2 of them have already finished. Those were last week and the week before, and they were on the topics of accessing funding and financing for SMEs and on digital transformation. And as you all know, the webinar of today is on cross-border collaborations. If you are interested in any of the previous webinars, we have recorded each one of those, and you can find them on our website through the LEVIATAD project. If you just go to the Blue Cluster and look for the LEVIATAD project, you will find all the webinars there. And then I hope with the webinar today, we can give you some insight in how to set up cross-border collaborations, some tips and tricks you can take away. And I hope we can inspire you to maybe start cross-border collaborations yourself. So I hope you enjoy these webinars and they can help or can inspire you in some way. But if you want, you can always look back at the recording or look back at the slides or ask us any more questions if you want to know more about the topics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marie. So before we go to the first contribution by Mrs. Pagny from Technomar, I will just give the floor to my colleague, Grisha, who is here next to me, and he will just ask you a first question through the Mentimeter. So, Grisha, please.
Indeed, thank you, Mark. As you already mentioned, there's a couple of moments within this webinar that we would like to receive some feedback from you guys. Maybe if you have attended one of the previous webinars, you're already familiar with the menti.com tool, which we're going to use to gather some feedback from you guys. So I would very much like to ask everyone to grab their phone or grab their computer, or maybe you can also use a tablet if it's possible, and you can surf to menti.com. You can also use and enter the code here on the screen, but you can also, maybe it's a bit more easy to use the QR code that's presented right here. So I'll give everybody a couple of moments to access menti.com using the code here presented on the screen or the QR code right here. And then I'm going to ask a very simple first icebreaker question. Let's put it like this. And I would like to know from you guys, how many LEVIATAD webinars did you already attend, including this one? I think it's interesting to see how mixed our public is right now. So again, you can still see the code at the top of the screen. You can join at menti.com and use the code 61982186.
We look already at 12 answers, 13 answers, with about 25 people attending. For us, it's interesting, specifically also for the colleagues from LEVIATAD, to see if we can have some people recurring in our activities, because that's the way, in fact, you grow ecosystems and you grow participation in this ecosystem. That's also the reason why we ask it after 3 other activities. It's quite interesting to know who is again here. So sure. It's very nice to see that more than half are already more than once attending this this meeting.
There's a nice mix of new attendees and people who have previously already attended. So that's yeah, very nice to see as well.
Yeah, okay. You can still continue filling out this this question, but I think the most important is that we go to the content from today, and that we give the floor to Christiana. So I will share, in fact, the presentation again, and please, Christiana, I will give you the floor to share your thoughts with us on the added value of cross-border collaboration and the role of cluster organizations, specifically from the Technomar viewpoint. So you can take control of the screen and manage your presentation yourself.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. And first of all, thank you to the BLAUWE cluster and to the other partners of the LEVIATAD project for inviting me to this webinar. Can you see my presentation?
No, now we see the different participants in the screen. So we just saw it before.
Just a moment, please. PowerPoint. Just a moment. I am Cristiana Pagni, and I'm here as the president of the Technomar Consortium, which brings together representatives working in shipbuilding, defense, and dual use. The Technomar is also the only one in Italy that gathers SMEs in the defense field. Indeed, I firmly believe that it is essential for SMEs to cooperate. Now you can see my screen, my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay. The consortium of the Ligurian SMEs, Technomar Liguria, was established in 2009 in the context of the DLTM, Technological District and Center of Excellence, of which it has been a member since its inception. The Ligurian cluster of maritime technologies is the network among institutions, research centers, big and small medium enterprises, and the only one in Italy that involves the Italian Navy. The mission. Okay, the mission of the consortium is to participate in the governance of the DLTM, to support innovation, to promote cooperation by participating in national and international projects, thematic working groups, call for ideas, business to business, company promotion, is to support internationalization through participation in events, national and international fairs, national and European networks, new planning, and so on, to encourage investment in knowledge and also training and information, seminars, workshops, and so on. Then the numbers. The slide here shows the number of the consortium. Over time, we have had a minimum of 60 and a maximum of 130 companies. Now we are on the upswing numbers. The slide here shows the current numbers of the consortium. The first number represents the participating companies, which are now 78. The strategic objectives. Strategic objectives are: we aspire to create a cultural reference in the area that supports businesses and encourage their opening also at an international level. We also aim to carry out training sessions for the companies and the entrepreneurs by implementing the business culture. We also want to support the analysis of technological organizational development, critical issues, and entrepreneurial internationalization's identification of technical scientific partners. We aim to develop networking skills. And finally, we intend to increase managerial skills for the design and implementation of projects. Now the collaboration between the Techno Consortium and the Ligurian cluster of the technology maritime. This collaboration wants to promote the relationship between SMEs, research institutions, university, with the purpose of supporting the growth of SMEs, and it also allows SMEs in their relationship with large businesses to evolve from the role of customer supplier to that of co-makership, and it consequently responds effectively to the need of bigger businesses to develop the control of technological perspective. With the DLTM, we carry out joint activities such as shared research and development, training planning, internationalization of SMEs, as well as missions, fair, and national and international events. Here in the slide, you can see our current collaborations. The European Digital Innovation Hub, the Center of Competence START, sorry for my wrong is START for the Rete European Enterprise European Network, the Cluster BIG, and WestMed initiative. SMEs in Europe make up over 90% of companies in the sector and are able to cooperate mutually at the European level to compete on international markets. They are also flexible to greater adaptability in response to rapid market changes. They are able to create a strong commercial, technological, and research and development partnership, and to invest better and more easily in human resources. This slide shows the percentages of the companies which are part of the consortium. In fact, you can see that the small companies are about the 30%, the micro, the 34%, and the medium, the 10%. While in this one, you can see a breakdown of the participating companies by type of activities. As the graphic shows, the majority of companies within the consortium are in the naval, nautical, and mechanical field. Small and medium-sized enterprises are considered to be the backbone of the European economy in terms of job creation, growth, and innovation. The role of SMEs in the European defense technological and industrial base has gradually increased over time, partly as a result of a greater outsourcing from big companies. SMEs are active in defense both as direct suppliers to ministries of defense or as subcontractors in the defense supply chain. Member states and prime contractors recognize their contributions and ability to respond promptly to changing military needs, as well as their relevant role in research, technology, and innovation. The role of cluster, like the LTM, is that of gathering companies to boost innovation, productivity, and competitiveness. For SMEs, being a part of a cluster is crucial for their development. This is because cooperation ensures access to specialized services, shares technological platforms, market expansion, and lower costs. To be more competitive, SMEs should collaborate in the defense sector in a cluster. By being together, they can better innovate and compete. SMEs have identified a number of difficulties in participating in the defense market, including access to information, defense procurement, supply chain, and finance. They face barriers in promoting their innovative solutions to government authorities and large companies. Since defense supply chains have a substantial national focus, there are additional challenges for SMEs that wish to enter defense supply chains in other European countries. In part, this may be due to security of supply concerns, but other factors such as specialization, standardization, certification, or export control are also relevant. Moreover, due to the limited scale effect of most of military programs, the sourcing strategies often orientate to single source procurements with few flexibilities for qualifying alternative sub-suppliers. These problems could be overcome by the increasing role of a permanent structured cooperation, which advocates for a stronger defense cooperation between EU member states. A further step to increase cooperation could be a stronger involvement of OCCAR, an international organization whose core business is the true life management of complex cooperative defense equipment programs. The organization was established by means of the OCCAR Convention, which is equivalent to an international 30. The convention was signed in 1998 and entered into force in 2001, where both members and non-EU countries participate in. Anyway, cluster help SMEs to cope with the most important challenges and effective financial management, such as support involvement in research and innovation, and facilitate the bridge between innovation, technologies, and industrialization, commercialization. Poor financial resources and delays in payment have a strong negative impact, both in terms of competitiveness and vitality. But the integrity in cluster improve SMEs' competitiveness and industrial performance. Lastly, one of the biggest difficulties faced by the SMEs in the defense market is the limited access to information of subcontracting conditions. It is essential for SMEs to be informed on time about foreseeable changes to the programs in operation in order to make the necessary industrial adjustments. The support from defense-related associations and clusters can be helpful for SMEs to access the funded research programs, which would be more difficult if attempted independently. This will also improve their bargaining position with their potential stakeholders. In conclusion, I strongly believe that there is a need for more spaces where we can come together, real hubs where we can discuss common themes, problems, and innovations, and where we can meet major players and navies. That's why we, as Italian Blue Grout, conceived and organized the Future, the biennial event focused on defense and dual use conventions, along with the business-to-business meetings. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Christiana, for this presentation. I heard from my colleague Marie that you will have to leave quite soon.
Yeah.
So perhaps, in case there are any questions from the audience, please put them in the chat. But perhaps it could be interesting. Just one question from my side. do you have in short term any concrete actions which support collaboration with SMEs, where you can where it could be interesting for Belgian, Croatian, French companies to come to Italy to explore some type of collaboration? Do you have something on the planning currently?
Sorry, can you repeat, please?
No, so just with regard,
a lot of collaboration, yeah.
Yeah, concrete collaboration activities which are on your planning, on your agenda currently. Do you have some?
Yeah, we have a lot of collaboration between industrial cluster, Italian cluster, and international one, of course. But the concrete hub is SeaFuture, in which we could have a lot of meetings, a lot of collaboration. We can write down the future together. With with cluster, international cluster, and as we signed 2 years ago a lot of agreements, and we can have the we can meet big businesses, a lot of international clusters, and other SMEs from a lot of countries. You can we have had 70 countries, international countries, guests in the last edition of SeaFuture, and so we firmly believe that this is the right way to carry on our ideas to be strong, the SMEs.
Okay, thank you very much. So I assume that people who are interested to collaborate with you can use your contact details to contact you, I assume. So that would not be a problem. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Christina, for your contribution. I now want to give the floor to Johannes from Callista, and I try to share my presentation or the presentation again, but I have to admit that currently Teams is doing very weird. And I have to check what's happening here. My apologies for this.
Meanwhile, in the meanwhile, maybe I can present myself.
Yes, please.
My name is Johannes
Johannes
Wilmot. I'm a senior patent attorney of a Brussels-based IP law firm, Callista. And actually, I thank you for this invitation today to participate to this webinar in cross-border collaborations. And I tackle in particular the topic of IP rights in such collaborations. So if it doesn't work, I can also try to share it on my side. I don't know.
Yeah, perhaps, but I think that Christiana has to stop sharing her screen. She's still sharing currently, so that, in my opinion, yeah, that's okay. Thanks, Johannes.
Yeah. Okay, seems to work.
Yeah, great.
So can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So then let's start right away. So in collaborations, you have, I'd say, 2 main topics, which are, let's say, the main topics for IP rights. It's to provide clauses or to stipulate the ownership of the IP rights, and the second topic is valorization. So ownership is, let's say, the more complex topic. So I thought I'd go a bit through this process for a simple company. I said here Belgian company, but it's mainly a national company. Then a collaboration within the same country, I said here Belgian, and then what changes if we have a cross-border collaboration. And then we see a bit some issues with valorization, and I hope I can conclude with a nice take-home message for you to remember for your future collaborations. So let's start with the ownership. On a company level, we have the main concept of if we have an inventor of a new invention, then normally the inventor is the owner of the rights on the invention. And so if there's a patent filed, all the rights on the patent belong to the inventor. However, if this inventor is employed at a company, normally under Belgian law, and also Italian law, for example, and most laws in Europe, they're automatically transferred the rights to the company, to the employer of this employee inventor. So this is normally not a problem. But the moment that one of the inventor or the person working on the collaborative project is not not an employee, for example, an external contractor, an employee of an external company, it must be assured that the rights on potential inventions are from the beginning well transferred to the company who's participating to the collaboration. So otherwise, these rights may remain outside of the collaboration contract. We will see that in a moment. So the base message here is very important for each company collaborating to make sure that all the people who work on the project, they have either contractual conditions that the IP rights are transferred to the company. So now, if you have a collaboration, we have maybe here an example: 3 different companies. Each have some inventors having contributed to a common invention, which led to a patent. So one company had 2 inventors, each contributing with 20%. So at the end, they own 40% on the patent. And the same, another company had an inventor contributing with 20%. They own 20% on the final product. So I think the concept is quite clear. And okay, that's maybe... Yeah, doesn't work like I want. But so if in the collaboration contract, we can, however, always change the ownership, how it should be at the end. For example, classic example is we have one company who looks for a solution for a certain problem. They ask 2 researching companies, like it is shown here. And this company wants to have 100% on the ownership of the IP, which is resulting or resolving the problem, because they want to have all the rights on the IP rights coming out. So this must be written in the collaboration contract, because once the collaboration has ended, then it's very often very difficult to make these changes of ownership. So it is important to do that at the beginning. And now we will see what happens if... I am not sure why it doesn't work. Okay. What happens if one of the inventors, let's say, do you see my mouse? This inventor, he did not participate, so he had not a correct right transferred to the company. For example, he's an external contractor, like shown now, and the company did not take care to that he actually transfers correctly the rights to this company, which at the end made part of this agreement that all the rights belong to this other company. So at the end, this breaks the whole contract, because the company cannot transfer something to this company what is not hers, because the rights remained at this inventor. And so at the end, the final solution and the final result is that this company has only 80% ownership of the patent, and 20% remained at this inventor, because this little link is broken. So because this IP right transfer was not correctly done. So that's again why it's very important that each company carefully checks that the IP rights are correctly transferred to the respective company they're working for. And very important as well, to negotiate at the beginning the ownership the partners actually desire. So maybe some partners think at the end all IP is theirs, but if they don't write it in the contract, it's not like that. It's the IP belongs always to the partners who contribute to the IP right, to the patent, for example. Now, maybe there are several little issues with when it comes to cross-border collaboration, but I picked here only one, which is maybe the most important when it comes to defense industry. There's one rule in many national patent laws which says if you have a patent in the field of national security or national defense, you have the obligation to file first in your own country. So in France and US, this is even stricter. In France, every invention must be filed first in France, and for a French company. For the US, if there is a US inventor involved, it must be filed first in the US. So it's very important when you have a cross-border collaboration, you want to file a patent on the results to respect these first-to-file rules. And very often these are conflicting. So you have a French company, a US company, and let's say an Italian company, as we have many Italian participants here. Then Italy has also a first-to-file obligation for national defense inventions. And so in which country we need to file first. So there it must be carefully considered with the IP law firm how this can be solved. Now to the last topic, when it comes to valorization. Valorization is who can actually use the protected invention. So normally there's one partner who finally wants to produce the item which is protected by the IP right. Let's assume an example. So we have here one company, the green company. They looked for a new screw for ship vessels, and they to solve a certain problem, and they asked two research institutes to find a solution. They find a very nice design for this new screw, and then the two institutes filed a patent on that, which they own together, which is not so important at the moment. But finally, the green company they want to produce and sell this new screw. But at the collaboration contract, they never talked about who has actually the right to use the results of such an IP right. So they want to sell it, but then the two research companies, they say, yeah, but in addition to what you have already paid us for developing this, you need to pay us also royalties and on this invention, because that's something we made on top. And the green company might be a bit surprised, but it is the right of the developing companies. And so this shows a bit, it is very important that you talk at the beginning of the collaboration contract if there are potentially any IP rights, any patents, for example, then what will happen? Who has the right to use the patent? Under which condition? Is it necessary to pay additional royalty fee, which is at the end is fair, but maybe you have to put a maximum not more than 2% on the sales or of whatever is agreeable between the collaboration partner. But the fact is, if it is negotiated at the beginning, normally everybody agrees quickly to a solution. If this is agreed at the end, the researching companies, so the patent owning companies, have a strong leverage, because the green company already invested a lot of money. They want to bring the solution finally on the market. And the alternative is to redevelop everything. And in fact, we work a lot with with clusters. For example, we work for Mecatech, which is a mechanical engineering cluster in Belgium. And there we had once a case where there was a company who looked for a solution. And at the end, a university developed a very nice solution, but they never talked about who has the right to valorize, who will own the patents. And at the end, the university asked so much a royalty which was so high that it was economically not feasible for the valorizing company. So at the end, they decided to redevelop the whole thing and kill the project. And so they lost 3 years, a lot of money, and for nothing. So this shows a bit, it is very important to talk about this at the beginning. And I think this is also the take-home message, 2 take-home messages. So negotiate at the beginning who owns potential results and who has the right to valorize the potential inventions. And then to really allow only persons to work on the potential collaboration project and the R&D project, which have really assured invention transfers. So either they are employees of the participating companies, or if they're external, to assure in the contracts that all the rights are really transferred to the participating collaboration companies. So these are the 2 take-home messages. And if what I have seen in practice, in reality, we work, as I said, a lot with collaborative projects. How is it going? You have a deadline until when you have to submit a signed collaboration contract. They start 3 days before to organize the signatures, and nobody has really time to talk about ownership and valorization of IP, because for the moment there is no IP, and so it would probably take 1-2 hours to discuss that. But in practice, nobody has time to that. And so there remains the template standard phrase, who contributes, owns at the corresponding shares, as I explained at the beginning. This is the standard rule. And for the valorization, it will be negotiated once the IP is created, which is normally in the middle versus middle end of the project, when it is already too late. So I understand that it's very often difficult to negotiate about something which is not there yet. But at the end, if with some imagination, you can already imagine who will probably contribute to a potential invention. So if one company asks the other to solve a special problem in the digital part of the project and another for the mechanical part, so you will you will know that maybe these 2 companies may create inventions, and if they have inventions, they are probably owned by them. And then what happens with the valorization? So you can already think a bit of potential inventions and how the valorization should look like. So because at the beginning, everybody has an expectation of for the project, and if you put it on the table, you can probably quite quickly find a solution. Well, versus the end, this gets normally difficult, because then the IP owning companies have a strong leverage versus the non-IP owning companies. So this is the basic message of IP rights in collaborations. Maybe a quick word to our IP law firm. We consider ourselves a modern IP law firm with a very strong business-oriented approach. Maybe what distinguishes us a bit from other IP law firms. And we have one expert, Joachim, who unfortunately couldn't be there today to do the presentation. He specialized in exactly those topics, valorizations, collaboration projects. He does also fiscal deduction using patents to reduce the tax payments, especially for Belgian companies. And he, for example, drafted a template contract for collaborations for several clusters in Belgium. So we have quite some experience with that. So if you have any problems or you look for support in this question, we are obviously open to help you there. If you have any questions now, I am really happy to help you and to answer your questions. If you have questions later on, don't hesitate to write me an email, and I will be happy to answer any doubts you have.
Thank you very much, Johannes, for this contribution on quite a complex matter, in my opinion. So I'm not sure if there are any questions from the audience. But in the meantime, if I may just ask you a short question.
Sure.
I'm rather general. I understand completely that good contracts, good and clear, transparent roles and responsibilities are key, in fact, to avoid problems later on in a process and in a collaboration. However, I'm always a little bit struck by, on one hand, you need the contracts, you need the rules and responsibilities, but on the other hand, you have innovation, which is always, a chaotic process. So you start now, but you never know where you end up. So you gave a few good examples, but I think in one way or another, the requirements of good IP management, are a little bit contradictory to novel and innovative approaches with regards to innovation. For example, during the last webinar last week, where we had presentations from the Belgian marine and the French marine sector, you see that they are more working on MVPs, minimal viable products, very agile process where they do something, start, learn, and go ahead. So it's very difficult, and it's just a very open question. But how to align between those, on one hand, very strict world from law and IPR, and on the other hand, something which requires a lot of flexibility. So how to approach this, because that's one of the key topics, in my opinion. And specifically when, for example, you have the US, France, Belgium, Italy, and so on in a consortium. Do you have some ideas? I do not want to pinpoint you on whatever, because it's a very difficult matter. But if you do you have some ideas on how to approach this?
Yeah, definitely. So to clarifying the expectation of the partners doesn't mean that you have to put a final solution in the contract. But the example you mentioned, so you have a collaboration, they say, okay, we don't actually know where there will be an invention, and we just go step by step. But nevertheless, they probably have an idea, an expectation on a business perspective. So you don't start a collaboration if you don't expect something from it normally. So you have, okay, I participate at this collaboration in the expectation that we solve this particular problem. That's maybe the classic situation. And then you want to assure that the valorization of this under certain conditions is assured. But in a more open collaboration, you might have an expectation, okay, so we all can contribute, we all risk that we are on the side which does not own the patent, but in this case, let's say, all agree that everybody is allowed to use these inventions under fair conditions, which are put at the beginning with some maximum royalty rates. Maybe you do not fix the exact conditions, but you fix some framework rules so that everybody can be happy and nobody risks at the end that maybe he contributed to something which at the end he cannot use, which is not fair for everybody. So if you don't do anything and say, yeah, we are really open, at the end you risk that somebody who ends up in a situation which is unfair has a disadvantage. And if at the beginning maybe this is a complex framework, so you need to invest a bit more into this IP contract, which many people are not really willing to, because if there's not a problem, they don't see the necessity to do it. But at the end, it's a well invested time to really think of what do we expect from the collaboration and to put that in the contract. And this can be also put in the contract in a general way. Maybe it needs a bit more experience to do that, but nevertheless, you can always do that.
Yeah. So in fact, if I may rephrase your answer according to how I interpret it, what you're saying is that from day one you start with a framework with a process and general agreement on how, for example, to treat royalties or to share IP, for example, and then you refine on later when the solution becomes more concrete, something. And this approach you put on the table from day one. So this is a little bit how you should approach it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Normally, anyway, when you formulate a contract, a collaboration contract, you have in the introduction you will make 3 phrases which saying what is the purpose of this collaboration, which is basic. Yeah, and maybe if you add another 3 phrases, what is the purpose? What is the expectation of each of the partners on a business model perspective? It really would help in an hour probably to formulate some framework rules to how the IP can be guided, let's say, in such a collaboration without fixing it. But it doesn't cost so much as many think if you do it at the right point in time.
Yeah. Okay. There are 2 other questions in the chat, one from Val and one from Gert. But I also want to take the time into account. So perhaps Johannes, if I may suggest, or somebody else, that you just look at the questions and perhaps put your answers as shortly as in the chat. Then I would suggest to continue, in fact, with Mislav from GDI Solutions and his experience with regards to cross-border collaboration. So I will try to take control again on the presentation.
Yes, stop sharing.
Yeah, if you want. And share the presentation again. I hope it works now.
See.
One moment. So, Mislav,
yes, hello.
Please take control of the screen and share your experience on cross-border collaboration, please.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Mislav Juresic. I work in GDI. GDI is a Croatian-based company, and I will try to briefly go through some of our experiences with using EU funds and collaborating cross-border. I'll try to simplify, and I like always to stick to some basics, which I think are at the end something that you always need to refer to whenever thinking about some opportunities for collaboration. Maybe briefly, second. Yeah, can you see the second slide? Yes. Briefly about GDI. GDI is a private SME headquartered in Croatia, in Zagreb. We are also part of Croatian competitiveness cluster for defense industry. This is the way how I ended up here sharing our experiences. And we have a physical presence in approximately 14 countries. Mainly these are Central Eastern European countries. And from some 2 years ago, we also have a physical presence in India. There are two basic segments of our, let's say, services or products. One is related to geographic information systems, and we are distributing S3ARC GIS Pro system. And on the other side, we are developing our own product solutions that are usually interconnected with GIS and use its capabilities to deliver complete solutions for different customers. Our customers are coming from different industries. Mainly these are telecommunication, energy, public sector. We work a lot with cities, with different ministries. Also, we work with defense and security industry. So we are basically delivering solutions that are, in short, supporting digitally managing of different assets and operations in critical infrastructures that I mentioned previously. And we are doing this through using also digital reality, so let's say digital twins, and using different sources of information that are integrated through, let's say, one operational picture. And delivering insights in form of analytics or informal analytics to support decision making. In respect to defense and national security topic, we are of course working with different segments. If we look at this a little bit wider, so we work a lot with emergency sector, with search and rescue, supporting search and rescue missions, law enforcement, public health, and similar. The key role here is in respect to our GIS capabilities to provide basically situational awareness, continuous situational awareness, and on the other side, manage efficiently resources and assets. And from the other side, also not less important, the need that we satisfy in this sector is very important regarding information access and communicating situation to stakeholders or to general public. This is in short, just to have some context of our activities, and these I think will be a little bit more clear than how we proceed with our involvement in the EU projects. Here I will not go into details. I want to say that basically this process takes time, and there are a couple of key messages here I want to send. So from one side, I think we need to understand when we talk about involvement in EU projects, whether they are collaborative or standalone, and not dependent on the role in the project. We have phase of preparing the project application and the phase of implementation. And why I mention this is because I think it is very important from the side of resources, managing your resources and developing them. So what happened in our case, company used some national programs like 10-15 years ago, but more systematically it started with the start of operational program in Croatia somewhere in 2016. And from perspective of resources for preparation of project, the company started more or less with support of external consultants. And these projects were mainly related to, commercialization of new products or R&D collaborative projects with research organizations, or things like or internalization projects where you use funds to go to exhibitions and so on. And then slowly, after some, let's say, 3 years, and we use the internal resources to manage implementation of these projects. If we talk about administrative side, it was more a part-time job of somebody, but after 3 years, basically we started building our own resources. Yeah, so now we are 3 persons responsible for this work, and we started more, let's say, doing things internally. Yeah, so in aspect of implementation, we are doing all internally. Of course, we are using sometimes, for some specific questions that are developing, like state aid issues or what colleague previously mentioned, IP issues. We specifically use people, external people or consultants who are specialists in this area, but for overall general management of these projects and our roles, we rely on internal resources. And then somewhere in 2020 happened our first involvement in a Horizon project. We were there. The project is still ongoing, but our role was, as you can see, there are 40 partners. Sometimes these projects are very big, and our role was small. We were focused on basically using our core capability, which is GIS. And one of the reasons of entering this project was to strengthen or develop further customer relationship with one of our customers. I mentioned this because of the next slide and of the motivation that one founds for entering specific project. And then after 3 years, as I mentioned, we started writing our own projects. So these couple of projects we wrote, sometimes projects pass, sometimes projects don't pass. I think that what is important is always to learn a message from success or failure, and find the right partners to work with. Sometimes it's good when project fails if the partnership is not right. And more and more in last 2 years, we started entering very different programs. We believe that different programs are directed for different needs, and so we are basically not focused on one type of program. We start using Interreg programs. We applied recently to civil protection mechanism in one consortia, and we were part of consortia for a couple of projects mainly related to climate and disaster management. And why? Because these are mainly related to our key strengths, our core capabilities, which we can reuse and let's say sustain. Yeah, I think this is very important. So the message here is that the role basically of your involvement can develop over the years, and this is how we let's say manage it. Our intention is to increase the role we have in international collaborations. So we started with just entering as a small partner. Now in last few projects, we started being responsible for certain activities, and even giving more support to project leader, like in terms even of administrative support and some other topics. Okay, so this is, let's say, some specifics of our involvement, and now I'd like to, based on that, just share some of the lessons. I mean, there are a lot of topics that can be covered, but I choose a couple of them. I think what is important to this is related to any EU project involvement, in my opinion, because there are situations when the motivation can be very different. Yeah, from just doing favor to somebody and get involved in the project, to financial reasons or reusing of your capabilities, or developing a technology, and etc. And I think it's always important to question yourself, what are your long-term goals, medium-term goals, because these projects usually last at least 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So you need to think what will be with your resources in 3-4 years. It's very important to understand for yourself, whether you are, developing new technology, or you wish to demonstrate something you have, or you wish to create a better relationship or open the door with the potential customer. For example, in our cases, this is sometimes case with cities, where we work a lot with them, and such projects are sometimes opportunity to strengthen the relationship. For example, we have one example of one project where a city is not even a partner, but just associate partner, but they're so interested in the topic that they are very keen to receive results, participate, give some information, and see what is the output of this project, so they can use it. Yeah, so it's very important to know the motivation why you're doing this. Sometimes we do it for building capabilities, using these capabilities, and even employee retention is sometimes the reason, maybe not the primary one, but something that is very useful. The benefits of these involvement can be many. I here mentioned just a couple of ones. So all these projects that are now happening in our case, many of them, not all, are a result of some previous collaboration. Yes. So any involvement, how much small, can lead to some new opportunities, finding good partnership, finding good potential future partners, and building long-term relationship. As I mentioned, skills development is sometimes very important. For example, we try to combine always senior people with younger ones, new employees, so they can gain some specific skills through these projects. And not last, but very important benefit, at least for us, is just sometimes to demonstrate our capabilities and link it to some potential future relationship. Challenges are many. Colleagues mentioned some already regarding the IP, and but I think for us, from our perspective, the most important challenge in these projects is resource related, because in IT industry, people change jobs very often. And as these projects last for long, you really need to plan well for the future in regard to resources. One of other challenges is a big number of programs that we are involved with, and then there are different rules, and you need really to manage this carefully. But I think what is important is that one manages these projects and these opportunities in the way that you can handle it. Yeah, so it is very important. Well, at least this is how we behave. We started, let's say, relatively small, and we are building our role and our involvement gradually in these projects. And I think it's important not to take something that you can handle. And related to this, it's very important sometimes to say no and to choose partners you can work with. Sometimes you learn this after the project. You need the project to learn this, but sometimes you can see this upfront and related to what was mentioned earlier, to define things in advance. I think it's very important, even if you're a small partner, to define what is your role, and even things like and what activities you will be performing. So what we do is we usually involve technical people in these first discussions, so that it is very clear what is our role and what needs to be done. And so we like to talk openly in this sense and define as much as possible front. And then when you have many projects, it's very important to be able to coordinate all these. Of course, it can be done with external help, but at some point you start building internal capacities, not only in administrative sense, but also in sense of supporting your decision making, deciding where to go and where not to go. And it's important also, in my opinion, to handle different sources of funding, because not everything is for every need. So if you want more to develop certain technology, or if you want to demonstrate something and build relationship, I think it's important to be aware of that and use different programs. This is more or less in short. I think the most important message from me is that one needs to choose opportunities that you can handle, but also having in mind your real motivation and your goals. And this role can develop over time if you work on yourself and developing relationships and developing your capabilities. Yeah, that's in short. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mislav, for this this interesting presentation, specifically also the last slide with regard to the lessons learned. I would ask the participants, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and we go shortly through it at the end. But I would first give the floor to Ronan Perez, who is sales engineer from Ennovia. I will click to the slides, and please, Ronan, you can take the floor to share your experience with cross-border collaboration.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Do you want me to share my screen, or you have the slide?
You can take the leads
Okay.
on the slides, so you can just click through.
Oh yeah,
so
sure.
You can take the lead with your own slides.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So last time I presented you the collaboration with the French Navy. So today we have chosen to talk about the 3 Ennovia cross-border collaboration and experiences through 3 topics. The first one is partnerships. The second one is exhibition, and the third one is part of the cluster. I don't know if we can see the slide. I'm nothing here.
One moment. I will
Yeah.
reopen again. I don't know what's happening. So I'll click you through. If I have to switch next to this next slide, Roland, please say it. So
Okay, no
yeah.
problem. So the first topic I wanted to share with you is the partnership with a Canadian company who is InnovMarine. And for the history, we met InnovMarine teams during European Economic Mission on the shipbuilding in France. And this company is very close to Innovia because it specializes in the ship construction by providing consulting services, process improvement, technology, tool optimization, and also data management. And they also provide software solution to support the transformation of the maritime industry, digital shipbuilding, operational maintenance, like we're doing. So this partnership is very interesting to distribute the software in North America because the two companies share the same philosophy and also the same vision to simplify processes and centering all the processes around the operator to provide appropriate and effective digital solution. So by and thanks to this partnership, it's a shared interest for the contribution of technology to increase productivity. This is a shared interest also to the efficiency in industrial process and a current and complete management of the life cycles of the complex systems, such as the ships, of course. So partnership is complementary expertise. Hello for in this example to bring to North America our innovative solution to improve reliability and maintenance for vessel and shipyard. So this partnership can also provide opportunity to cover the entire life of the ships and bring new opportunity to businesses. It can be also opportunity to improve the software solution, and we are thinking together about integrating new modules into QuickBrain, commissioning, checklists, etc. to increase the capacity of the software. So first topics, partnership, bring new opportunity. The InnovMarine is a company very close to the Coast Guard, very close to the Royal Canadian Navy, and this is the first topics I wanted to share with you. The second one, it's an experience with the Canadian Navy, and that's very interesting because I saw the link on the chat at the beginning of the meeting, but following our participation this year in the SeaFuture exhibition, the SeaFuture exhibition is a business convention for maritime and new technology, and very unique and interesting because it's implemented inside the naval base in La Spezia. So we had the chance to meet a number of operator and admiral from the Italian Navy and present the software to them. And by talking with all the actors of the naval domain in Italy, we have noticed that on the Italian ships, and some of them are very close to those of the French Navy, the problematics to manage the maintenance, to manage the spare part, the asset, found the technical documentation quickly were the same as in French Navy. So after that, thanks to this exhibition, we made a collaboration between the French and the Italian Navy, and also because of the Italian military detachment in the naval base in Toulon here in France, we plan to prepare a proof of concept in collaboration with the French Navy, and this is the objective thanks to this future exhibition. And for this subject of implementing the software into the Italian Navy ships, it was very important for all the actors to be involved in this project. So we guess this is the first step to deploy QuickBrain also on the Italian fleet. And it was the second topics, and the last one. So I put the LEVIATAD project, but it's more be part of a cluster, because by the international collaboration with other partners, you will be able to develop and demonstrate the effectiveness of an innovative approach for the defense sector for our case, by combining digital twin, technical data, or mathematical model. I mean, combining knowledge and capability of several companies for different countries in Europe. And this is the main objective of this kind of project, and be part of this kind of cluster. So in our case, this project fosters synergy between different SME, which allow to create new business lines, and also belong the European border maybe. It will also increase the presence of the involved company in the international chain value, and we believe that all the proposed digital solution, for example, are innovative and currently not available on the market. For example, this project and integrated on board. So, I mean, to not hesitate to do this kind of project, and being together to in this kind of project, it's very interesting to be more innovative and compete due to the collaboration. Okay. At the end of my presentation, do not hesitate to ask me some question if you have, or into the chat, and I will be happy to answer to your question.
Thank you very much, Ronan, for your contribution. So indeed, if you have any questions for Ronan, please put them in the chat. We'll take a little bit of time into account. We will be a little bit late also today, so apologies for this. But let's go ahead with you, Samuel, and please share your experience on cross-border collaboration from the drone geofencing perspective. So, Samuel, you have the floor. If you want, you can take control of the slides.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, so I try to keep the control.
Yes, you have it, I think.
Okay, it's perfect. Okay. So let's present myself. I am Samuel Bro. I am the CIO of Drone Geofencing. And Drone Geofencing is a startup which develop a solution to supervise a fleet of drones from a control center. So the drone could be autonomous, or it could be a swarm of drones. The concept is that all the trajectory and all the flight are automatic, and the supervisor located within the control center is just here to supervise the flight and to take the hand in case of problem. So the company has been created 3 years ago, and we deposit an EDF project last year. We win this financement, and I will talk with you about our retext about this financial fund deposit. So the EDF project is what is very important is that I put at the right of the slide how an EDF project is noted. So you have the excellence, the innovation, the creation of cross-border cooperation, etc. So in order to build our project, so we obtain, I think, a quite good note, 42.5 on a global note of 45. And in order to do this, I will try to explain you how we did. So at first, we elaborate a strategy to elaborate the consortium. So normally, a consortium should be composed of several countries. And in Europe, we have 4 major countries in terms of population and military budget, which is now France, Germany, Italy, and Spain, and of course Poland. And in our case, we try to build a consortium including at least 3 members, composed of a company or laboratory located in at least 3 different countries and 3 major countries. So in our case, I am from France, and we try to find people. So we have France, Germany, and Italy within our consortium, but we try to not to have one major country in terms of population and a lot of small countries, but we try to have a lot of major countries within the consortium and some small country. Why? Because in case of we can prove that several major armies are interested in the project, in fact, we are more chance to win the project. So in order to do this, in the first case, I didn't know how to find the different partners within the foreign country. So I contacted the CIRA. The CIRA is a very big public research laboratory located in Italy. So this is the center of research of aerospatial from Italy. And I selected these partners because the public laboratory are oftenly interested in research projects, and they are members of a lot of research projects. And once I have convinced the CIRA to participate to the project, the CIRA find the other member of the consortium. So they bring the Greek people, the Italian private companies, and the German private company. So this is the first thing. And the other point is that the members of the consortium were very familiar with the collaborative project. And I was the only company who never built a collaborative European project. And in fact, it's very important because as all the other partners were already member of EDF project, Horizon 2020 project, or other Eurostar or other European project. One of the people, one of the companies, so the Greek people, start by doing a state-of-the-art of all the European collaborative projects which were financed by the European Committee, in order to be sure that that our project was unique and was not already paid by the European Commissions. So this is the one point which is very important. After this, we have to put a use case, and when we were looking for use case, we distributed the different use case in different country. For example, in France, we are we have that end user, the SNCF, and a company which is working within the nuclear nuclear company. And for Italia, they bring the Italian army, in fact. And this is very important that the different use cases were distributed in a lot of different countries to show the interest of the project by the different major, the different countries, including the major one. After this, we spent a very long time to select the type of call we are going to answer. So at the beginning, we selected an Horizon 2020 call. And at the end, they take a look to a lot of statistical success rate for the different projects, and our conclusion was that it was easier for us to answer to an EDF call and not an Horizon 2020 call. So we spent, I think, 1 or 2 months to take a look to all the projects and all the success rate in order to be sure that we answer to the correct call. And maybe the last point I could say is that it is very important when you build the proposal to be, because in order to liberate the fund, you have to achieve milestone. And the different member of the consortium, when they built the planning of the project, elaborate task where each task is closed some months before each milestone, in order to be sure that we will be able to finalize all the tasks which are a condition to liberate the fund. Okay, so the last point maybe for me is that you see within the different notes of the to have the note for the call, you have task which is easier to obtain than other tasks. For example, the quality of the efficiency of the implementations. In fact, it was points which were quite easy to obtain if you are working with if we have company which were already part of other consortium, because they are familiar of what is expected in terms of project management and key indicator ratio for the European Commission. Okay. I have quite finished. If you have some questions, I am at your disposal.
Thank you very much, Samuel, for this contribution. Are there any questions from the audience now? If you can put something in the chat, please. We still have a few moments to address a few questions. But perhaps to all 3 presenters as well, Mislav, Ronan, or Samuel, I just want to relate to the contribution of Johannes from Calista, with regard to IP. So, in one way, in which way did you take into account IP discussions in mounting this or those EU projects?
So for us, it's we apply to a basic principle, even if it's never basic. But everybody at first the PI, we have different tasks, and the PI is property of only the member which were working on each task. So I mean that in our case, we are building a mothership which is able to drop a swarm of drones on a theater of operation. We have issue with, for example, the propulsion, the drop systems, the guidance or the data link for everything. And in case of, for example, for the data link, we are on the member. We have 5 people within the consortium. Only 2 people is working on the data link. So it means that at the end, the PI is on only by these 2 companies, these 2 members. And the work is the ownership of the property is depending on the effort each company is giving within this task. So, for example, for the data link, we have a leader. I am leader for the data link, and the CIRA is helping us. But I am leading the majority of the work, so it means that I have the majority of the properties, and I am going to give small royalties to CIRA. But depending of the effort which has been done, and in the other sense, for the guidance, this is the CIRA which is leading, so I have less IP on the guidance than the CIRA. I don't know if this is very clear what I am.
Yeah, for me it's clear, but perhaps for the other people around the table, not that much. But if they have some questions, they can ask them in the chat. But for example, Mislav, do you take into account IP in the development of those projects?
Yes, I mean, for us, it's depending, whether we are a part of consortium to just to provide some of our capabilities, like if we are talking about GIS capabilities. In this case, there are some rights, licensing rights prior to the project, which are which have to be abide by after. But if we talk about some national programs where we collaborate with universities, which are more like R&D from our side as well, then it is a lot. Usually it's regulated by the program itself, but the general principle is that everybody owns what they deliver. I mean, for us, it all depends what is the ultimate intention. If it is development of certain product of ours, then we try to establish this prior to the submission of the project and define this in collaboration agreement with the university.
Okay, yeah, that's clear. Thank you. Ronan, I had the impression that you were mainly referring to commercial collaboration, whereas Mislav and Samuel were really referring to collaboration subject to EU projects. So do you use public funding effects to establish this commercial collaboration, or is it just, let's say, an investment of Innovia to develop those interregional collaborations?
No, we do not really use this PI. We develop all this proof of concept and the feature of the software linked to the house shareholders. So, but you are right. Maybe we have to improve that and maybe use this kind of finance to increase it to doing more project. But this is the another approach for us compared to my two colleagues.
Okay, so you're fully commercial, let's to say that,
Yeah.
and then I can put a complementary question to or ask a complementary question to Mislav and Samuel. Is there some those EU-funded projects, did they result already in concrete business afterwards, post-project? So you're muted, Samuel. So yeah.
For us, we spend a lot of time to finalize the grant proposal. This is the second step. Once we have the financement, we have to finalize the consortium agreement, and the work is going to start as from the 1st of November normally.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
because
so
it takes a lot of time. We obtain the financement in June, and we finalized the grant proposal as from 1 week ago.
yeah,
So the grant proposal is describing the intellectual property of the project between the the European Commission, and the leader of the consortium. And after this, we have to establish a PI contract between the leader and the different members of the consortium. There's two levels, in fact. The European Commission discusses only with the leader of the consortium, and the leader of the consortium discusses with us.
Yeah. Okay, clear. And yeah.
Yeah. From us, yeah, regarding we have this one big project in Horizon. This is still ongoing, and regarding national projects, which we had previously in regard to R&D, yes, usually in most cases, these projects result in certain outputs or part of outputs. It depends, you know. Sometimes you plan this with certain expectations, and then the market changes, and the time that passes in waiting for results and in implementation changes things. But it's always at least you know, some kind of module is commercialized, or part of results. It always happens. Yeah, we are planning in such way that we try. It is difficult because the industry is changing fast, but we try to integrate the plans related to you know, product improvements and new product development with applications to funds. It's not always easy, and it's because, you know, so many things changes until you get funds and until the project ends. But we are planning in a way that you know, we're looking at it more flexibly. So we are planning in a way that always something can be used, you know, in a generic way, if not specifically what was initially planned.
Okay, great. So commercial outcome, yes, or at least the intention. So thank you very much for your appreciated contributions. So yeah, we have already a lot of time spent after the end of the project, so it's time to wrap up. So I look at Marie, although she does not see it in a virtual mode, but please, Marie, if you can make a short wrap up of what we have heard and what next steps could be.
Yes, thank you. So first of all, thank you everybody for being here, and thank you to the speakers for your efforts in this webinar. And just to wrap up, there are some future next steps. So this was the last webinar, so there are no more webinars coming up in the future, but we are doing some other things. First of all, we will be providing a report with all the key lessons and most important recommendations resulting from these webinars. These will be publicly available, and we will try to send them to you afterwards. Then, as well as the slides and the recordings, which will follow much faster. Then also, as I already told the previous webinar, we will be doing an we will be going with our cluster to Canada, to Quebec, to have a look at how the marine defense industry is operating over there. I have already sent out the information and details to everyone that was registered in the normal registration form of LEVIATAD, but for those who are not registered over there, but only for this webinar, I will also send this information and those details together with the slides and recording to the participants of this webinar. And then lastly, for the people who have submitted a project proposal for the funding scheme we have provided this summer, I have good news. You should have already gotten an email with the results of the eligibility check. So you should already know whether you are eligible or not. And then as for the quality assessment, next week, normally you will be receiving your final assessment, whether the quality of your project fulfills the needs of the funding scheme. So that's about it for the next steps. Again, thank you for being here, and hope to see you in the future.
Thank you very much, Marie. So we only want one final input from you, and then I go back to my colleague Grisha. So we had 4 webinars all over the last few months. So Grisha, if you can ask the last question to the participants, is how likely is it that you would recommend the LEVIATAD webinars to a friend, colleague, or business contact? Although Marie said that this was the last in a series of 4, but in the future, to establish collaboration, we could envisage to organize more. So please, for everybody attending, please indicate if you would recommend this type of service or support for facilitating cross-border collaboration, if you would recommend this to somebody else. So this would be a very interesting feedback from the audience.
Yes, for sure. I see that quite a lot of people have already exited the Mentimeter. So again, friendly reminder that you can use the QR code on the screen or go to menti.com and access it like this.
We take some time. We have 7 people who are giving their or sharing their voice through Mentimeter. So in the meantime, with this first feedback on how interesting the webinars were, the only thing which